simply at work one morning, and I hit the floor, and off to the emergency room I went. And they ran a series of tests to find out what was wrong and why I passed out, because I'd never passed out before. And it came back. I had a tumor in my head, and came back to be stage 3 brain cancer. And from that point on, that was probably the toughest, darkest place I had been at. So after I found out what it was in the hospital, they sent me off to a specialist, and therefore the specialist, at first they thought it was benign and it wasn't cancerous. They decided to go ahead and remove it anyways, just to be on the safe side. We had watched it for a while, been through strenuous specialists and appointments after appointments, and so a couple months later they removed it, and I went into surgery. And when I came out, they ran me for a series of MRIs, and I thought that was it. Well, the nurse came back, or the doctor came back to tell me that they didn't get it all, so they had to go back in for a second surgery. But so I went through the second one a week later, after I had healed for the most part, and they went back in and removed what was left of the tumor. And it came back as stage 3 brain cancer, which was a shock to everybody, because at first they thought it was benign and they didn't think it was cancerous. So following that prognosis, they allowed me to go to Duke University, and that's where they sorry, I got choked up. And I did chemotherapy for a year, and it was really rough. Through all this, I'm a single parent of 2 children, and at the time they were 8 and 5, and just really rough. And the chemo made me very sick. And where was God? God was everywhere. God was everywhere that I looked, everywhere that seemed to be dark. There was light, and there was peace everywhere in my situation. God was there. Even though I couldn't feel him, I knew he was there. The peace that I had through it all was his really way of showing me that he was there, and that even in the beginning, that day at the hospital when I got diagnosed, I had a certain peace in my heart that I knew everything was going to be okay. No matter what those doctors said, I had peace at the end. No matter what they said about the diagnosis, how long I'd live, or what I researched on the internet to find out the lifespan of this cancer, I just had that peace knowing that everything was going to be okay. And so here it is now, a couple months after my year of chemotherapy, and I am doing very well. I am very healthy. The cancer is shrinking over the last couple months, and I go every 2 months to get MRIs at Duke. And so far these last couple of MRIs have been stable, and if not shrunk. And so I really look to God for that, and praise him for from where I've came from, and what in the beginning they were saying about this diagnosis, and what was going to happen to me is totally the opposite of what's happening to me now. I wouldn't take back the opportunity to go through it, as crazy as it may sound. To endure all this, and to see the darkest places that I've seen, and to be at such a low point in my life, has brought me so far in my faith. And I don't ever want to go back to how I used to be. It's maybe overcome some obstacles that I was having a very hard time with. It's changed my way of thinking as far as my faith goes, and it's really showed me who God was in my life and where he stands. But if I had to go back and if I could redo this again, I wouldn't trade it. Though it may seem dark, and especially getting some news, whether it be health or issues or whatever it may be, that darkest moment in your life, I would say to always look up and trust God, that no matter what it may be, like no matter how big it may look, that it is for his big plan. Like, we can only look at it for like what we want to look at it for, and like the short the shortness, but we have no idea what the great plan he has. So my greatest advice would be to look up and to pray and to have faith, that to know that he's got your back and that everything's going to be okay.